Hey guys, today's video we're talking about borderline toxicity, which is actually a real thing. Um, Let me just say this as a disclaimer. This video is not meant to bash on borderlines. Not every borderline is the same. A lot of borderlines are different. Some are better behaved than others. Some can be cruel. There's borderlines out there that are sociopathic borderlines. I've dated two of them. Yes, I am angry about my relationships with those people because I was hurt tremendously by both of those individuals psychologically. Um, a lot of borderlines are just not in touch with their behavior. It could actually be unconscious psychosis. They may not even understand what they're doing. That's why I tell all my followers, all the boyfriends of people that have borderline, you can't get mad at these women. You can't physically abuse them and mentally abuse them because a lot of these women don't understand what they're doing. One of my last girlfriends, she went into a full-blown psychosis for an entire month, spent a month at the Veterans Hospital, and a full-blown schizophrenic borderline psychosis, one or the other. Um, I'm not a doctor or anything, but I've gone to college for mental health. I almost have a bachelor's degree in mental health. I have a lot of knowledge as far as all this discussion, and I've dated several borderline women, so I definitely understand what I'm talking about. But again, not every borderline is like what I'm about to talk about. But today's video, we're talking about borderline toxicity, and this is a real thing, guys. Okay, a lot of times adults can become toxic individuals when they haven't gone to therapy, haven't got those emotions out, haven't talked to people about things like child abuse, sexual abuse, things like that they're just keeping all those emotions inside. They're keeping all the anger towards a certain parent inside. Let's say their father abandoned them when they were 9 years old, and they hate men because of it. This can actually make them a toxic individual. This can make the person actually, in a way, kind of enjoy abusing the other partner. And again, they'll never admit it. A borderline person will never, ever admit it. And again, it could actually be an unconscious thing. But like some of the girls I've dated seem to enjoy mentally abusing me, physically abusing me. And I'll give you an example. Recently, one of my ex borderline girlfriends, who's actually a real sociopath in real life, she has antisocial personality disorder and borderline, which makes her sociopathic. She recently, within the last 4 to 5 years, one day I was over here with my brother. I asked her if she wanted to have dinner with me and my brother, and she couldn't do it. She wanted to just take off on us so she could go do drugs with some idiot in the next town. Borderline people will literally drop you like a bag of dirt if they have a drug problem. That was the case with the girl that I loved. Anytime drugs were involved, she would literally just say, fuck you, and be out the door. One night she came here on a Friday night and said, hey, Steve, I'm going to stay the night with you. And then some guy texts her and says that he has coke or crack or whatever the drug was, and she was right out the fucking door, and fuck me was her attitude. Those are the sociopathic borderlines. They literally have absolutely no regard for us boyfriends' feelings. They don't care at all. In the hate cycle, they could give a shit less if you're upset. That's what's so frustrating about loving these individuals, dating these individuals. And again, not every borderline is like this. Not every borderline is harboring toxicity. So I always say this as a disclaimer because I always get comments from people out there that want to judge me and say that I'm bashing on borderlines. The truth is I almost killed myself over one of these girls. I was at my worst point with this one borderline woman that I loved. I loved her to death, you guys. She's one of the most beautiful women I've ever dated. On Christmas, she ended up leaving me like Christmas Eve to go move in with her brother. It was part of the hate cycle, part of the devaluement cycle. Moved out like on Christmas Eve. On Christmas, I'm not going to lie to you guys, I was suicidal those few days. I think it was actually Christmas Eve that I almost killed myself. And ended up going to work drunk. I actually was drinking right before my shift. Ended up getting picked up by somebody and went to my shift drunk with a plan to kill myself at work so that there'd be people around that could help me out, so I wouldn't be alone while I was dying at least. but my plan was to stab myself to death at work. And I'm not lying to you guys, I was pretty close to actually doing it. That's the mental torture that a lot of these borderline women, the sociopathic ones, can put us boyfriends under. I mean, guys, it's literally mental torture for the boyfriend. So if you are feeling suicidal, please call the suicidal helpline or call a family member or a friend. You don't want to take your life. These are just temporary problems that can be fixed. One example is yesterday I blocked this particular borderline woman. I can't do it anymore. I'm worried that she'll push me to a suicidal behavior again. That's why I really just can't risk it with this person. She makes me suicidal. Let's call a spade a spade. So I've blocked her yesterday. She had stayed here for a few weeks and then just moved out with no regard for my feelings whatsoever. After not seeing me for 2 years. I hadn't seen her for 2 years. And then she come back after 2 years. She was sleeping in her car this winter and begged me to come stay. I said, of course, come stay. I love the girl. Ends up staying for 3 weeks and then bounces the fuck out on me with absolutely no regard for my feelings. And I haven't seen her since. She tells me that relationships trigger her. And I know that's why she left. Whenever she's here, she feels like I'm trying to be a boyfriend to her, which is kind of true. I love her. I do want to be her boyfriend. I'm not going to lie to you guys about that. I'm a very loving, kind, sweet person. But she says that relationships trigger her. Why is that? She doesn't trust humans because of child abuse, sexual abuse, other, etc., etc. I don't know if she was sexually abused. I'm just guessing based on some of the behaviors I've seen. Like, she's not interested in sex hardly at all. That can be a red flag for sexual abuse. We'd come home from a date where the possibility of sex was there, and multiple times she would just take off on me. It'd be like midnight so that no sexual behavior could happen. And again, my guess is that that's probably sexual abuse or some sort of sexual trauma, PTSD that she's avoiding. But it can go the other way because I've seen the same girl, like, I think the word's hypersexual, where she's all about sex. I mean, me and her have slept together a few times and had amazing sex together. So it's really weird with a borderline where they can really be aversive to sexual behavior, where they just don't want it at all, or they'll run from it, or they can go the other way and be a complete slut. And I'm sorry if that offends somebody, but that's actually the case a lot of times with some of these young sociopathic borderlines. The one I dated was literally fucking 3 guys at once. I was like the boyfriend guy, so I didn't have a chance right off the bat because anytime you try to be a borderline's boyfriend, a lot of these borderlines will put you in the friend zone because that relationship trigger, right? So, again, not every borderline is like this. Some borderlines probably want to be loved, but there's a majority of sociopathic borderlines that just hate the idea of romance, hate love, because they really, truly, at its core, they kind of hate human beings in general and just look at you as an object to use. You take that girl for an example. The only reason why she even contacted me is because she was sleeping in her car freezing to death. It wasn't because I meant anything to her. It wasn't because she loved me. It wasn't because she cared about me. It wasn't because I was her friend. It was because she knew she could take advantage of me and use me. That's what these sociopathic borderlines do. They take kind people like me and then desire to use us. The same person came to my workplace and walked by me with another guy and looked at me with some sort of smirk on her face, almost like a psychological abuse. That is psychological abuse. You know, why would you do that to someone that wants to be your partner, wants to be your boyfriend, girlfriend? Almost like a taunting behavior where she walks by me with some other guy and like gives me this nasty look or kind of a smirk on her face. That's the